There was a whiteboard in our hallway, left over from her home office days. She hadn't used it in months. But this morning, in thick black marker, someone had written, "Be right back. Don't burn the house down, face blowing a kiss." I stood there, staring at it, barefoot, half awake, clutching a chipped mug of cold coffee like a prop in a bad sitcom. The kind where the audience laughs at the loser husband while he slowly unravels on live television. I didn't laugh, because I knew that handwriting. And I knew that emoji wasn't meant for me. She was gone. Her car was gone. Her overnight bag, the one I'd bought her for our canceled weekend trip last fall, also gone. I opened the closet. The perfume she never wore for me, gone too. I walked into the kitchen. Toast still in the toaster, never pushed down. Her coffee cup, still steaming. She wanted me to find this. Like it was a game. Like she wanted me to stew in it. Like this was some sort of twisted scavenger hunt where the prize was humiliation. And that's when the buzzing started. Not my phone. The iPad. Hers. She left it on the counter. Unlocked. Open. Like bait. I didn't want to look. I didn't. I swear I didn't. But then I saw the preview of a message pop up. From someone named Lucas G. "Can't wait to see you again tonight. You looked incredible last time." Last time? There was a last time? I tapped it open. My fingers were trembling. Not from anger. I wasn't there yet. Just disbelief. Just that hollow, sick, punch in the stomach realization that everything you thought was secure was actually paper thin. There were dozens of messages. Jokes. Late-night selfies. Conversations about our little secret. There was even a Spotify playlist they shared called Hotel Elevator Vibes. I didn't even know she liked that kind of music. And then, one message from her. I told him I had a date. He just stood there. He still thinks I'm bluffing, LOL. LOL. She laughed about me. She laughed about me. I stood in that kitchen for a full hour. I didn't cry. Not yet. I didn't scream. I didn't call her. I wrote a note of my own. Not on a whiteboard. On the foggy bathroom mirror, where she always checked her makeup. I wiped a space clear with my palm, picked up her eyeliner, and wrote 7 words. When she read them, her hands started to shake. But we're not there yet. She walked in humming. That same stupid tune she always used when she was in a good mood, like the world existed just to make her smile. Her keys hit the table, her heels clicked across the wood floor, and I swear I could still smell the cologne in her hair that didn't belong to me. She didn't even check if I was home. She just moved around the house like nothing was off. Like she hadn't left a passive-aggressive whiteboard message before running off to cheat on her husband. The confidence, no, the audacity, was unreal. I stood in the hallway, silent. I didn't want to be dramatic. I didn't want to scream, cry, or beg. I just wanted her to see what I saw. So I waited. She passed the bathroom. Stopped. Backed up. "Eldon," she called, and her voice cracked just slightly when she saw the mirror. 7 words. I wrote them with her own eyeliner, thick across the fogged glass. They weren't poetic. They weren't cruel. But they hit like a hammer. "Tell Lucas I liked his playlist too." She stood there frozen. One hand still clutching her purse, the other raised halfway to her lips. Her reflection stared back at her, and for a moment, I thought she might faint. Her face drained of color like someone had just flipped off the lights in her soul. She turned around slowly, saw me standing in the hall. "Eldon, I can explain." I just tilted my head. "Can you? Should I grab popcorn?" That broke her composure. Her jaw clenched, like she'd been the one betrayed. "You went through my messages?" "You left them open," I said. "Was that on purpose? Was I supposed to clap for you?" She dropped her bag and came closer. "It wasn't like that. It's just, I felt disconnected. You've been distant. And Lucas." "Lucas," I cut in. "You're on a first-name, Spotify sharing, emoji flirting basis with a guy named Lucas. And I'm supposed to what? Understand?" "It wasn't serious," she said, voice trembling now. "It was just a date." I laughed, and I hated how bitter it sounded. "No. A date is what awkward teenagers do before prom. A date is coffee at noon. This was betrayal. And you broadcasted it like it was a victory." She was crying now. I think it shocked her more than it did me. "I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. And then you laughed about it." She reached for me. I stepped back. "I didn't just find your messages," I said quietly. "I sent one." She blinked. "To who?" "To Lucas. From your account." Her whole face twisted like she was trying to figure out if I was bluffing. "What did you say?" I stared at her for a long second. Then I said, "I told him your husband was looking forward to meeting him." Over dinner. Tonight. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. You invited him over? She gasped. I nodded once. He said yes. And for the first time since this whole thing began, I saw fear. Real, raw fear crawl across her face. Eldon, please. This is going to explode everything. Exactly. The doorbell rang at 6:43 p.m. Right on time. She flinched like it was the sound of a gunshot. I didn't move at first. I just watched her standing there in the middle of the kitchen, still in her wrinkled blouse, mascara smudged at the corners from crying, hair pulled back in that careless way she used to do when she was just mine. Her hands were trembling. Mine weren't. I walked to the door slowly. Calm. Steady. Like I'd rehearsed this moment in my head 1,000 times. Because honestly, maybe I had. Just never like this. Never with him standing on the other side. I opened it. Lucas was taller than I expected. Button-down shirt, clean-shaven, annoyingly confident smirk like he thought he was walking into some low-budget rom-com where he gets the girl in the end. He had a bottle of wine in one hand and a six-pack of that microbrew crap she always pretended to like to feel cultured. I almost laughed at how smug he looked, until he saw me. His face flickered. One heartbeat of confusion, then clarity, then panic. You're not. Madeline said, he stammered. I nodded, slowly stepping aside. She's in the kitchen. You're our guest. Come on in. He hesitated. I could tell his brain was tripping over itself, trying to figure out if this was a trap or a joke or some weird modern marriage ritual. But eventually, curiosity won. He stepped inside, and I closed the door behind him. She didn't say a word when he entered. She was frozen, arms crossed like a kid caught sneaking out past curfew. Her lips were pressed together so tight they were turning white. Lucas cleared his throat. So, this is a little unexpected. Yeah, I said, walking over to the table and pulling out a chair. Take a seat. Neither of them moved. So I did. I sat down like this was just any other Thursday night. Like this wasn't a full-blown emotional ambush. I gestured to the chairs again. Come on, you're already here. Lucas finally sat, slow and awkward, like he thought the seat might explode. Madeline didn't. She stood behind her chair like she was waiting to be sentenced. I folded my hands on the table, looked at him, then at her, then back at him. So, Lucas, how long? He glanced at her, clearly unsure whether to answer. Be honest, I said, eyes locked on his. A couple of months, he said, shrinking into himself a bit. At first we were just talking. You know, messaging. It didn't get physical right away. Madeline let out a tiny sound, like a breath she didn't mean to release. I looked at her. Anything to add? She shook her head, barely. You told him I was okay with it, I said to her. Didn't you? Her silence was all the answer I needed. Lucas blinked. Wait, she said that. Oh yeah, I nodded. Said I was emotionally unavailable. Said we had an understanding. Said she needed someone who actually paid attention to her. Lucas looked genuinely uncomfortable now, like someone had just tossed him into a freezing lake. I didn't sign up for this, man. I know, I said calmly. Neither did I. Madeline finally snapped. What do you want from me, Eldon? What is this? Some public execution? Revenge porn but with feelings? I looked at her. Really looked at her. No. I want truth. In one room. With everyone who made me feel like I was going insane. She folded her arms tighter. I leaned forward. You wrote in your messages that I never made you feel seen. That I was small. That I'd never do anything if I found out. That I'd cry in silence like I always do. She flinched. Congratulations, I said. You were wrong. Lucas stood up. Okay, I think I should leave. No, stay, I said, suddenly smiling. You haven't heard the big news yet. They both stared at me. I reached under the table and slid out the folder I'd stashed there this morning. Tossed it on the table. Inside, printed screenshots of every message. Bank statements. Hotel bills. Lawyer contact card. I've already filed, I said quietly. I'm not here to beg or to scream or to fight for scraps. Madeline opened the folder. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I just wanted you both to sit here and feel what I felt. If only for one damn night. And then I stood up and walked away, leaving them in silence, staring at the wreckage they created together. She followed me to the driveway barefoot. I didn't hear her at first, just the quick slap of skin against concrete and her voice trembling somewhere behind me. Eldon, wait. Please. I didn't stop. I didn't even turn around. I opened the driver's side door and sat in the car, keeping my hands tight on the wheel because if I looked at her, if I saw her crying again, I wasn't sure I wouldn't break. She knocked once on the window. "Please just talk to me." Her voice cracked. "You can't just drop that folder and disappear." I rolled down the window an inch. "Why not? You disappeared all the time, just without the paperwork." She flinched. That silence that followed. It was the first honest thing we'd shared in weeks. "I messed up," she whispered. "I know I did. But it wasn't like I planned to fall into something else. It just happened." I turned to her then, slowly, my eyes catching the porch light glinting off her cheeks. "That's the thing, Madeline. It didn't just happen. You built it. Message by message. Lie by lie. Right next to me. In our house." "I didn't think you'd notice," she said, her voice small. I let out a cold laugh. "No. You hoped I wouldn't." She took a shaky step closer. "Lucas meant nothing. It was a distraction. I felt so invisible, and he just—" I cut her off. "Made you feel special?" She nodded slowly. "That's what I was trying to do every single day," I said. "But you didn't want my kind of special anymore. You wanted attention from someone who didn't see your flaws yet. Someone new." Her lip quivered. She was searching my face for something, maybe softness. Maybe the old Eldon who would fold at the first tear. But I was done folding. I started the car. She reached for the door handle. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere with peace," I said. "Somewhere you're not." I pulled out of the driveway, watching her fade into the mirror. But before I turned the corner, I saw Lucas step out onto the porch behind her. She turned to him like she forgot I was ever there. And that told me everything I needed to know. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't go to Everett's place either, even though he told me 100 times I could crash on his couch if things ever went south. I drove 2 hours north. No GPS, no music, just the sound of my tires on wet asphalt and my own heartbeat trying to crawl up my throat. I found a cabin on an app, some lonely rental by a lake that had mostly dust and silence. And that's exactly what I needed. I shut everything down the moment I got there. I turned off my phone. I didn't open email. I didn't check the news, didn't scroll Instagram, didn't peek at the messages I knew were piling up like a dam ready to break. I just sat on that creaky wooden deck with a blanket over my shoulders, staring out at black water under a gray sky. You'd be surprised how loud silence can get when you've lived so long inside someone else's noise. 3 days went by before I turned the phone back on. It blew up the moment it connected. Texts from her, missed calls, voicemails, emails from her personal and work accounts, even a Venmo request that just said, "Please." I didn't listen to the voicemails at first. I just stared at the notifications stacking higher and higher. I expected rage. I expected her to accuse me of ruining everything, of overreacting. But the longer I scrolled, the more panic started leaking from her words. "Eldon, please. Just tell me where you are. I messed up, I know. I don't even care if you yell. Just pick up. Lucas is gone. He left the second you walked out. He says he's not part of this. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. I need you to say something. Anything." Then came the voicemails. The first one was just static and a shaky inhale. The second was her crying, but trying to sound composed, like a kid giving a book report they didn't read. The third? That one got me. She said, "Do you remember when we got caught in that thunderstorm on our anniversary trip and we had to sit in the car for 2 hours because the road flooded? We were soaked, freezing, eating melted granola bars, and laughing like idiots. I remember thinking, this is what real love looks like. I ruined that. I broke that. And I know you'll never see me the same again. But I still see you. I still see the man who kept trying long after I stopped deserving it." That one I saved. Not because I forgave her, but because it proved something. She finally understood what she lost. I didn't reply. Not yet. I wasn't done being gone. Because now she was the one checking her phone every 5 minutes. Now she was the one pacing. Now she was living in silence. And I wanted her to sit in it for a while. It was just past noon when I heard the knock. I was halfway through reheating coffee that had already gone cold once, standing barefoot in that tiny cabin kitchen with my hair a mess and my eyes stinging from lack of sleep. I hadn't seen another soul in days. No cars. No hikers. Just fog rolling off the lake and the occasional crack of tree branches in the distance. So when the knock came, I froze. I don't know how she found me. Maybe she guessed. Maybe she saw the reservation confirmation in our old email chain and remembered that I once mentioned this cabin as a fantasy escape. Or maybe she just got lucky. But there she was, Madeline, standing on the porch like a ghost with a cardboard box in her arms. I didn't open the door at first. I stood on the other side, just breathing, trying to tell myself not to let her in. That if I did, everything I'd been building back, my sense of self, my control, the silence, I'd risk losing it all in one look. She knocked again, softer this time. Eldon, it's just me. I opened the door 3 inches. She looked awful, like she hadn't slept in days. She wasn't wearing makeup, and her eyes were red-rimmed and puffy. She held the box tight against her chest like it was some kind of offering. I brought some things, she said. I know you don't want to talk, but just let me leave this and I'll go. I opened the door wider, stepped back. She entered slowly, like she was afraid the floor might break under her feet. She set the box on the small dining table without saying a word, then stepped back and looked at me like she was waiting for permission to speak. I didn't give it. I walked over and opened the lid. Inside were photographs, not just digital prints, real ones, from vacations, birthdays, even random Sunday afternoons I'd forgotten about. Every photo had something written on the back, notes in her handwriting, things like, "You laughed so hard that day," or "You held my hand under the table and no one noticed." There were ticket stubs, too, from concerts, movies, train rides. And at the very bottom, the first birthday card I ever gave her. The one where I wrote, "Thank you for making me feel chosen." I looked up at her. She was crying now, silent tears running down her cheeks. "I know it doesn't fix anything," she whispered. "I just wanted you to remember that what we had wasn't all fake. Even if I broke it. Even if I broke you." I swallowed hard, emotions twisting like barbed wire in my throat. "I don't want to erase us," she said. "I want to find a version of us that can still live. Even if it's just as friends. Even if you never look at me the same again." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because for a second, I almost believed her. But then I remembered what she said in that text. "He still thinks I'm bluffing, LOL." And just like that, every warm memory in that box turned cold again. She saw it in my eyes, that I was slipping away all over again. "I'm sorry," she said one last time. But this time, I didn't stop her from leaving. 3 days after she left the box, I still hadn't touched it again. It just sat there on the table, lid slightly askew, like a wound half closed. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I had been. I was just tired. Tired of feeling like every moment I remembered was now poisoned. Tired of wondering if her tears were real or just guilt doing its best impression of regret. Tired of second-guessing my own instincts. So I went for a walk down to the lake. The air had that biting cold edge of late fall, and the trees were mostly bare, their reflections floating on the still surface of the water like a painting someone left unfinished. I sat on the old wooden bench by the dock and watched the ripples for what felt like an hour, maybe more. And that's when my phone buzzed. Just once. I pulled it out and saw the name. Lucas G. I hadn't blocked him. I don't even know why. Maybe part of me wanted to know if he'd say something. Apologize. Defend himself. Gloat. Something. But I never expected what I read. She told me you forgave her. That you two were working things out. I backed off. I didn't know the truth. I never meant to get in the way. I thought you knew everything. I didn't know she was still lying. I stared at the screen, reread it 3 times. My chest went tight. Still lying? I texted him back. What exactly did she lie about? It took 5 minutes. Then came the reply. She said you gave your blessing. That you wanted an open marriage. She said you were seeing someone, too. I nearly dropped the phone. All the breath I had been holding evaporated. This wasn't just betrayal. This was rewriting the narrative completely. She hadn't just snuck around behind my back. She'd built an entire alternate version of me. One where I was the checked-out husband giving her the green light to wander. One where I was unfaithful too. And Lucas, he had believed her. Just like I had believed her for years. I went back inside the cabin, my legs barely holding me upright. I sat at the table again and finally reached for the box. I pulled out the birthday card. The one where I wrote, "Thank you for making me feel chosen." I flipped it over. She had written something on the back in tiny letters, barely legible. "You always loved me more than I deserved." No lies in that one. I stared at it for a long time. Not with hope. Not with pain. Just clarity. She wasn't trying to fix what we had. She was trying to rewrite it into something that wouldn't make her the villain. But the truth doesn't fade just because someone's uncomfortable facing it. And I had one more thing to say before I disappeared completely. I sat at that cabin table for hours that night. Lights dimmed, wind brushing against the windows like the world itself was trying to whisper closure into my ears. I didn't cry. Not anymore. I had done my mourning quietly, privately, long before she ever confessed, long before Lucas ever texted me. And now, all that remained was the decision of what to leave behind and what to take with me. So I wrote her back. One message. No paragraphs. No explanations. Just this. I forgive you, Madeline. But that doesn't mean I'm coming back. And I hit send. I expected to feel hollow, but I didn't. I felt clean. Not vindicated. Not smug. Just done. Like someone who had finally finished reading a book that had gone on too long. The kind with too many broken chapters and not enough truth between the lines. Her reply came minutes later. She said she understood. She didn't try to argue this time. No bargaining. No shifting the blame. Just a single sentence that let me know she finally, fully got it. Losing you was the first thing I couldn't control, and I think that's why it hurts the most. I packed the next morning. I didn't take much, just my journal, the card from the box, and the quiet I had earned. I didn't go back to the house. I had already called Everett, and with his help, my things were sent to a small apartment I'd leased in a city 2 hours away. New walls. New routines. New coffee shop that didn't carry the same ghosts. The silence became a friend, not a punishment. I started hiking again. I picked up my old sketchbook. I called my sister more. I laughed at things without feeling like I had to apologize for it. And slowly, piece by piece, I stitched myself back together, not into the man I was before her, but into someone better, wiser, softer in the right places and stronger in the ones that mattered. A year later, on a rainy Sunday, I ran into someone at a bookstore. Her name was Lacey. She was reading a novel I'd always loved, and we both reached for the same sequel at the same time. She laughed first. I laughed second. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was competing with a memory. Madeline's story ended the moment she chose someone else. Mine didn't.